just to touch base on wall framing, we'll just do a small demonstration. So basically, to do the wall framing in this, let's say you wanted to do prefab wall frames, then you'd come to your building locations and set up the framing options. So basically here in the Australian content, I can select, say, the 70mm prefab walls for a 2440 high ceiling, and we only need the intersection lookup table to suit that so that it does the correct lapping at each wall junction. Now if I do that and come down to my framing, display framing, you'll find that on the ground you'll see that you have each wall and they sort of lapped over and everything else. So as far as coming out with the quantities, if I do the quantities, you'll find that I have in here my prefab wall frames. I've got so many linear meters of prefab wall frames. Now, however, if you wanted it to be a stick build building, you just come back into the building locations, again going back into the framing options and changing it from prefab to whatever type of timber you want. So this particular one here, we've got a 70mm MGP10 T2 red with a very top plate or a ribbon plate, depending on the terminology you use. So that's the infill, and you'll notice that I can go into that and I can change it from 600 centres to 450 centres, depending on how you want to build it in your area. We have to now select the intersection lookup table. So again, it's going to match the particular type of framing we're going to do. This will set up all the junctions. We'll then do a non-load bearing and a load bearing span table lookup. So again, we just particularly pick the ones that we want, and we cater for all of those as well, so that there's something in your quantities and you're estimating to do your quoting. So now if I hit OK and OK, you'll find that the frame just pops up, and you can see that I've got heads in the right places and appropriate heads where, depending on whatever I want, and I can change those heads depending on whether a wall is load bearing or non-load bearing. Now if I go into the quantities, you'll find, rather than the prefab wall frames, here I have all the framing, and you'll see it's actually labelled it after it what it is. So this is the bottom plate, this one here is for eave trimmers and so on. So the quantity side of it for costing comes out at so many linear meters, but it's all based on 0.3 of or 300 increments. And if we come up to the cutting list, you'll see that we've got all of our cutting lists sort of brought in so that we're purchasing the correct length. So let's say, for instance, these bottom plates, if I expand that out, although I'm doing 25 at 48, here's every piece and what length they are. Okay, so that should give you a small overview of the framing. If you've got any questions or like anything to know anything further, please give us a call.